What's up my guys? Welcome, another video. So, probably food on my face, just finished dinner. Alright, done at the gym, been to work, done all that. It's late, I am pretty damn tired, I'm actually really exhausted. So, just gonna do an update on my Turbo R1 project.
Perfect.
So for a while now, 7 odd months, I've been going through the process of turboing my 2008 Yamaha R1. So there's a few videos on how the bike was when it was just skimmed head, stock pistons, high comp head gasket, a lot of the basics, power commander, all of that. I ran the bike on E85, gave myself a tune which seemed to work pretty good, air fuel ratios and stuff were good. Never got it on the dyno, but she pulled pretty hard, got a few top speed runs in. So after that, I went and got myself in mischief and lost my license for 6 months. And in the process of that, I pulled my bike apart, which, you know, very dangerous when you're not riding. Yeah, very dangerous indeed. So going down the route of turboing it. Now, we found when I pulled the motor apart again, so I've had her apart before, we had some issues with the pistons. So these are our stock pistons here, OEM, few K on them, but if you have a look at this one particular one here, not sure if that's going to focus for you, but there is actually cracking on the edge of that piston. So I don't believe that was sealing properly. Probably had a bit of blow by pushing through past the rings, given the just like the gas pocket wouldn't have been sufficient around this particular piston. Yeah, so not going to put it back together, especially when we start running boost. So I looked at the top of the pistons, there wasn't any pinging or anything like that, so that's good. No detonation, all the other pistons are fine. There's no sign of damage or issue there, so there's possibility that the motor ingested something at some point, and that's come through and just kind of destroyed the edge here. But that sharp edge is definitely going to give me hot spots and cause detonation, especially under boost. Seemed to be alright, didn't cause any issue. I never noticed any physical issue or tuning issues with this guy. It hasn't scratched the balls are fine, and yeah, that was kind of a big issue for me. So I went and bought some Wiseco Pistons, 13.5 to 1 Wiseco Pistons, and you can see they are installed there. So that's these bad boys, just got them installed recently. Now you think 13.5 to 1 and boost is not going to be ideal. I believe these are 12.5 to 1 OEM or thereabouts, and not good for boost, not good for high boost. At least stock motors, I'm seeing a few of these pumping out 210 to 250 at a stretch on ethanol. Obviously the 200 mark wheel horsepower is just pump 98 here in Australia. So I've gone and done a thing where I've added this base spacer gasket here. So that's this little bronze guy. You can see it under there. That's going to lift up the cylinder. 1.6 millimeter is the thickness of that gasket, and I think it's probably going to crush down a bit because it is a like squishable material as such. Most people would make these out of stainless or aluminium or brass or something, but I've just gone with this 2-ply steel mid section gasket here. So that should get me ballpark 10.5 to 10.8 to 1 compression. That's going to keep us nice and happy when she is off boost, and then on boost it's still going to be good because I'll be running ethanol E85 and an old tankaroo there. So we have an E85 pump in there already. That is the, we'll insert what fuel pump that is there because I just have a complete mind blank today. But it's a ethanol safe fuel pump, so we'll be able to test that guy out. It's worked brilliantly so far, and I have ran it on E85 and it has been fine, no issues. Same with the OEM injectors. I've run these on E85 and they still had plenty of room naturally aspirated. Duty cycles weren't too crazy, so these were still good on E85. Now, with these pistons and decompression, next was just an OEM head gasket. That's pretty much it for the actual motor build. very simple, very clean, very easy. Looking for about 200 to 250 reliable horsepower on E85. We might better stretch that and really push the bounds with that, just given the compression ratio and stuff. I have taken our OEM clutch. It was a new clutch, got some heavy duty aftermarket springs. The actual kit is an SRK series race kit from EBC brakes. So it's a, what do you call it, an aramid based clutch, so she's a little bit more aggressive, should hold more power, and I've run all the springs in this because I don't want to be making boosts and having this girl slip. So that's our clutch setup. I got a new cover for it too because my old clutch cover had a ding on the side where the bearing sat. So the clutch release bearing, this guy here, this is the new cover, brand new. There had obviously been dropped at some point, and this whole thing was kind of squished, so it was oval, and I always had like a little leak dripping down there, which is a bit of a pain in the dick. So I'm gonna try fix that case. I'll be able to just punch it out, but to do that I'm gonna end up destroying the bearing. So got a new cover, so that'll fix that up. This is the turbo setup. Give me 2 seconds. And I might go rest it on the motor. I don't think I need to take, so we got a gasket and everything on there. We got dowel, should have 2, yep. So we got 2 dowels. I believe this might be the last time I need to rest it on. Maybe not with leaves inside. I'm gonna get some compressed air in here. I'm gonna clean that out. I'm gonna put the cylinder head on, show you guys what the turbo setup looks like. And this is our Borg Warner K16 turbo, custom manifold that I made myself. So that's thick-walled stainless steam pipe. So she's pretty chunky, pretty heavy. Custom made merge collector there as well. And this turbo just had laying around. She's pretty sizable. Should be good for the power. Should have power band a little bit higher. Spool and boost should come in a little bit later, hopefully. I don't want it straight off the line, obviously. We have a 44mm wastegate off the housing there, just to control boost as best as possible. So, that'll do. That'll do, pig. That will do. And that should give us definitely enough power. Now, manifold should also help with spool and all of that kind of stuff. If not, we can always change it. It is quite low and it is quite forward, and that is due to wanting to integrate a oil cooler. So the factory unit uses a cooling system that, let's see if I can find my torch. There we go. Yeah, for reference, that's a Subaru WRX Turbo. Look at the size of that. Yeah. And now we'll look at the size of this guy. She's yeah, decently sized. So back here we have our, very nice. This guy here, that is converting our oil cooler or oil to water cooler from OEM to a oil to air cooler aftermarket. So stock, these bikes don't like sitting still, they get hot very quickly, and that oil cooler, factory oil cooler, is very taxing on the cooling system. So moving to an air cooler, and she is going to reside just up here, just across here. Our charge pipe is going to run a 90 straight off, straight up here, so that'll kind of bypass and move, you know, kind of up here, across and up, and behind that we'll just sit. I'm not sure if it's going to be a long ways or up and down. Just a small oil cooler, and that'll help with separating the temperatures and really just nailing the oil temperature, dropping it as much as possible. We might even chuck a small fan on it. We'll see how we go with just kind of ambient airflow flowing through and see what temps we get. Under here you can see the gasket a bit better. Looking good. So we still run that oil filter and stuff here. That's just 2 AN10 orb fittings that will come off for the oil cooler, sorry. Other than that, there's not really too much modification for turboing these. Well, there's a little bit actually. So this is going to be our oil feed. So there's one here. Look at that oil pressure port there. There's one on the other side of the block too, and I might actually use that one because it is somewhat more recessed on that side. You can see this one sticks right up there, whereas that one is a little bit more recessed just up there. Run the oil right to this guy, so that's oil pressure to the top of the turbo. I don't think I'm going to need a restrictor to start with, or even at all, to be honest. But we'll see what we get. We'll see what fittings I have. I might have a fitting that fits that's 1 mil, so might just run that anyway. I need to build a sump that will sit under this. So the turbo currently sits slightly higher than what the stock dump pipe did, or stock mid pipe would sit. So ride height wise, the turbo is still well within like practicality. I can still use it because that never bottomed out, and as such I presume that this will never bottom out either, being closer to the front wheel as well. So that's all gravy, that's good, but I need to build a small sump, and a scavenge pump needs to go in there as well. I'll be using a VDO scavenge pump, not one of the eBay brass geared oil scavenge pumps. They are considerably cheaper, but they are also larger, and I don't want to be running that big piece of equipment kind of tucked up in here, as well as everything else that's going on. Now, so I'll be running the turbo exhaust, or off the back of the turbo, straight back into our system here, just the carbon fiber Yoshi exhaust. So we've got a straight through mid, the Yoshi exhaust and mufflers, no baffles. Oh, I don't really run the baffles in here. I have before when Karen next door complained, but I don't give a f anymore. So no baffles. She'll be nice and spooly, nice and loud. That'll be good. So that's our exhaust covered. Stock cams, stock valve trains, stock head studs. We ported and polished the head. So I done that a while ago. That was the NA setup that flowed really nice. That kind of crisped everything up, especially right up the top. She had a really good power band up top. So that was good. Add some boost, she should be better. What else have we got going on? This is the cover for the oil air separator. So let's go here. And this little port there. So that is a single port. Now, with the addition of boost, I want to run a catch can setup, and the catch can setup I actually want to run under vacuum, just like the OEM setup did. Now that's beneficial for seating the rings and everything like that, and just clearing all excess exhaust gas in the motor. So the big thing for me is the fact that this thing revs out really freaking high, like 14 to 15,000 RPM. And I don't want the pistons to be fighting crankcase pressure. So I'll be running a scavenge style catch can on the bike, which means the catch can, not just vented to air, but they'll be vacuum pulled from the exhaust. So I need to drill and put a vacuum port in the exhaust, and that scavenges and actually creates a vacuum in the catch can, drawing all of that crankcase pressure out of here. So the way I'm going to achieve that is, well, we can run one, that's probably -8, maybe a -10, but looks like a -8 to the catch can, which will be mounted probably in the tail. And I also went through and we're going to add one to the rocker cover, which you might think is not going to work because this is got the smog ports that go into the exhaust. So we can rectify our issue there. So those two ports up here, they go down into here, and from those two ports, there's two on each side, they go into the cylinder head and into the exhaust ports, obviously 1, 2, 3, 4, all of that jazz, maximum backfiring and all of that. You get smog box block off plates. It's a pain in the dick, but what we're going to do is we're going to use some chemi weld. We're going to fill these bad boys up and let that sit and set. So what I've done is these two holes at the front are drilled. This sits on the motor like this, on that angle. Get those to sit in the hole. So we're going to fill up those two there. We're going to leave those two unplugged. These two are the actual breathers. And essentially what's going to happen is that vacuum is going to pull oil mist through the top of the crankcase. Now there is a cam directly on the other side. And what we're going to do is actually pack this. I've used a Dremel and cut out the center divider. We're going to put mesh inside there, like steel wool. So the steel wool will help filter and kind of separate a lot of the oil. That will then pull in the bottom, drain back into the cylinder head that way through there. And then a 90 straight off this guy and try and feed him out to the catch can. So something similar to just this. I'm going to weld on obviously a fitting onto this guy here right at the top, something like that. Might have to get like a probably not a 180, 90, 120 degree or something, just to kind of flick them off to the side. But that's what this plate will be used for. We'll drill and weld on an A and fitting for that, and boom, vacuum catch can. That should help evacuate all the extra gas and all that kind of crap. And onto the bike itself. You're probably wondering what ECU I'm going to be running, and it's pretty straightforward. We'll be running the EMU Black ECU from ECU Masters. So this is a standalone ECU. Runs its own map sensor and everything. I've 3D printed the mount just to mount this guy just here. So it's a nicely tight little 3D printed mount. And that go there. That'll just sit there. Nice, easy, simple. I've started running all the wiring for it, so currently I just wanted to make sure that we can get accurate signal and control of the throttle bodies. So these are electronic throttle bodies, and this ECU retains these throttle bodies, so I haven't converted to like a cable style throttle body or anything. We'll be able to use this for traction control, wheelie control, all of that kind of stuff, which is good. That'll save us, well, dying probably. That'll restrict our power and everything as well in the lower gears. Flex fuel, boost control, timing control, fuel injector control. So we're going up to a Bosch Motorsport 1150cc injector, the same body style as these guys here, so that's good. Direct drop-in. From what I can tell, for the most part, I haven't ordered them, but our measurements seem to indicate that they're just going to be a straight fit, which is good. Same snout and everything on them, and direct bolting will be fantastic. I might need to shim the fuel rail. And in regards to our fuel system, like I said before, we already have that in-tank pump. I will be likely just cutting and welding this guy shut, and depending on, we might be able to get away with, depending on whether or not I can get different fittings welded onto this guy, which I think I might be able to. Anyway, I'm going to weld a fitting on either end, whether it be right on the edge or one up from the edge, but it'll be a return style fuel system. We'll be running a rising rate fuel pressure regulator. Just helps with, especially with the boost to aid and fuel control and all of that, one-to-one, like boost, fuel goes up one-to-one. So the more boost, the more fuel. Makes it nice and simple for us. Yeah, well, that really came out slow. Damn. So that's our fuel system. That is our ECU. All of the ignition, all of that has been torn out of the bike. Considerable amount of weight has been pulled out just from the loom and such. What have we got? Okay, it's not up here at the moment, so that's all. Must be in the other shed. This is pretty much it, and that loom over there, that's pretty much it for wiring. There is not much left. We have our headlights, indicators. The dash is still functional as it is there, but I do plan on just swapping it out for a tablet, because we can run that from this and just use a digital dash instead of this. But there's a couple of small features I want to retain on this, like the kilometers, just to keep track of the Ks on the bike, and just when it's low fuel. And that's pretty much it. Indicators would be nice, so I can see if I've left them on when sitting in a, driving along the road, just in case I'm one of those guys. High beam and all of that. That'll be nice to have in the background, but a small tablet in front, that'll show a lot more information than what this guy can, like our boost and all of that. Obviously keeping our AEM fuel gauge. Fan control is that one. This one here I'm probably going to use for 2 boost settings, so high boost, low boost, and I'm not sure what this red one I'm going to use. Not sure what I'm going to use it for. So that's just a momentary switch as well. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Everything else will go back together as it was. So even the gear ratio, the gearing on this bike is for naturally aspirated better acceleration, but money wise I'm just going to put it back together how it was. Probably going to paint the bike again. These fenders have not held up. These are Chinese fenders. You can see underneath how nice and dark the candy red is and how really not on top it is. That's just from sitting in the sun. Being a daily as well, I did ride this every single day for quite some time. Did not hold up. So planning on a color change. You can see here I've gone a little bit crazy with the blue. Looks real nice. I might do a couple of these side covers just to brighten it up. It goes with the radiator hoses and stuff too. And yeah, that's pretty much where we're at for the time being. So just like my brain, the old battery died in the GoPro just then. So anyway, tired, where we at? We're going to bed. This is pretty much ready to go back. Well, I do say pretty much ready, so there's not too much to get this back together and back in the bike. So obviously this cover needs to go back in. A bit of a clean up. I would like to paint these, but I also want to ride the bike, so taking stuff off painting, it takes time. It's quite considerable amount of time to get it to look like this actually. So maybe not, we'll see how we go. We're going to get our starter motor, a cooling system, cams. Well, cams need a little bit of a scuff up. There's a little bit of surface rust on them. So I'll clean those up. Thermostat. I think I might get a new thermostat just because it's in this state here. Clean up our pipes and stuff. See, this is what I mean. I would like to repaint this. You don't even really see it, so I don't know. We'll see how we feel at the time, I guess. No, we need to get the timing done. Still got the same chain. I haven't changed the chain. We've got the manual chain tensioner, which is good because we do have this big old spacer here, so we need to adjust it to suit our timing chain tension. Need to get a headlights back in. I have converted over to the LED headlights here, so we've got primary and secondary bulbs, both LED now. I do want to paint the bike, which the way I want to paint it, it should be pretty quick actually, fairly quick process. Just a rattle can job, nothing too fancy. I do want to get some more carbon fiber bits. I need to actually respray the tank too, because we're going from that, I don't know if you remember how it was or how some of these kits come, but it's actually a whole cover, plastic cover that goes over the whole tank. I don't know if you've seen them before, but it's this color and it's a big tank, except it doesn't have that front piece. Whereas when you run the standard tank, it's essentially like a 2-piece. So yeah, I want to get a carbon fiber front piece for that. Just sits up here, if you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, got to cut the radiator down too actually. So I done myself a mischief and didn't realize how far back the radiator needs to sit. So it needs to sit like here. But the problem is this one runner, I actually ran higher. So middle of building this, I kind of changed up the plan and ran this runner. Or was it this one? Might be this one. No, I think it's this one. One of these runners I ran higher than I should have. So the radiator doesn't, kind of like the bottom of this, because it's curved, kind of hits. So yeah, it'll be this one here. So I'm going to cut off probably 4 rows and that'll allow me to bring it back there. And given that I've got the oil cooler instead of just solely relying on this radiator to be the oil cooler and the water cooler, it should be fine. I shouldn't have an issue there. And I've got the thermal fans hooked up to manual switch as well, so that definitely helps. Yeah, and then stock chain, or not stock chain, the chain I already had, all of that stuff. She is still registered, so that's good. Everything actually runs off these 3 relays now, as opposed to the unit that the bike usually runs. So that ran a, I don't know what you call it, it's like a control unit, like a solid state even. I'm not sure if it was solid state, but just a little relay box that everything was interconnected through, like everything. And now, I wish I had the battery charger on. Actually, oh. Right, so everything's run off just this kill switch here now. Everything kind of works and does its thing, you know, indicators and such. Obviously the terrible horn on these things. These 2 still work as well. Oil level and fuel, they're just not plugged in at the moment. And oh, it's just not clicking. Oh, I'll get it unplugged. So starter and everything works. Brakes and stuff. And this does its thing too. So hopefully, let's see if we can give this a little bit of a tug. Oh, a bit hard with one hand. So this is our ECU controlling it now. Oh, flower wire. Oh, bloody jeez. Hurt. Well, you get the idea. So she does a thing. ECU seems pretty happy with this whole setup here. And once our injectors and everything are in, it's probably the most difficult thing with the wiring of this. Going to an aftermarket injector is making it a lot easier. I can't find specs on these particular injectors, flow rates, or anything like that. So going to an aftermarket one just makes it easier. They give you the spec sheet when you buy them. So bloody good. But that's what I mean. How simple is that? We are very close to the first start and getting this bad boy running, that bad boy spinning, getting some boost through her and see what she makes on the dyno. So yeah, you aren't in the gimbal right now, but it is what it is. Have a good night, champs. We'll see you on the next one. I guess we'll set up our timing, get our header and everything all bolted down on this for the next video. Literally haven't made any videos up to this point of this process because it's really just what I do in my free time. But I'll keep you updated, and yeah, peace.